You are now listening to the Performance Physical Therapy Better Faster podcast. Today's host is Dr. Michelle Collie, CEO of Performance Physical Therapy. Michelle is joined by 3 head coaches from Brown University: Todd Beckerman, men's wrestling; Lucie Schmidhauser, women's tennis; and Felix Mercado, men's and women's water polo.
Welcome, everyone. I'm here for the first episode of our next season for Better Faster. And I'm excited to actually have 3 very special guests with me today. Lucie Schmidhauser, who is the head women's coach at Brown University; Todd Beckerman, who's the head of the wrestling program; and Felix Mercado, who heads up both the men's and women's water polo team. So thank you all for being with me today.
Thank you for having me.
So today we're dealing with a very different time. We're dealing with a time when we've got our athletes maybe not out doing the same kind of training they normally would or competing at the same levels, but yet they still need to train and they still need to stay focused. And likewise, we've got 3 coaches here who have to keep their teams motivated, fit, healthy, and working together. So just like a teacher's role has changed very much at the moment, as has a physician's or a physical therapist, so is the roles and what our head coaches are doing. And today I think it's going to be an exciting opportunity to learn more and hear more about how these coaches are managing and dealing with this very different time. So firstly, I'm going to start with Todd. Todd, let's assume that our athletes are not just suddenly sitting at home on the couch eating pizza. Are they being active? Can you tell me about their activity levels at the moment?
Yes, I mean, it's definitely a difficult time, but it's a time for our guys to get creative. I think, kind of what we told them from the start, set routines, so they're getting up every morning, they're getting a shower, and getting a workout in. And I think our biggest challenge was talking to them is, do they have weights at home? And if they don't, what can they do? Body weight workouts. So we've gotten creative and we let them kind of get creative with their workouts. I mean, we just finished up our season. So we, are kind of coming off of that. So it's a little different time, but leading into this, it was more about getting a routine, getting off the couch, getting active, and sticking with it.
Felix, how about your water polo players?
This is obviously an interesting time because as much as a majority of our stuff obviously is done in the water in the pool, I kind of backed off a little bit on the training aspect of it. We've given them our strength coach has provided some dry land stuff for them, some body weight stuff that they're doing, but I've kind of paused on our training just while they figure out how to. I think one of the biggest challenges they're dealing with right now is learning how to study online. A lot of them chose to go to Brown because they wanted to be on-campus learning, and that's, and at Brown especially, it's really unique for that. That a lot of them are having some more. They're experiencing more difficulty balancing their time with this new learning way than they did in the fall. So I've kind of backed off a little bit on the training and just told them to focus on that. In May, we'll start kind of doing more, providing them with more workouts and stuff. But they also need a pool, and 95% of them do not have access to a pool. So we kind of are stuck, but making the best of it.
And Lucie, you have the tennis players. How are our ladies handling, and what are they doing at the moment as far as how to stay active?
So I would definitely agree with Felix that at first there was a period of adjustment when it comes to online courses. It's definitely, that's a huge adjustment for all of our players, as most of them have never dealt with online courses, not at least at this, at a university level. So we've definitely tried to give them some time to adjust to that. But also we've really encouraged them to keep a schedule where they're able to manage both their academics and their tennis, or at least their fitness levels. So for us, we've kind of encouraged them again to have a schedule, have that the component of physical training, which I want to say our strength coaches from Brown, they've done a really good job of providing programs that, maybe you don't need weights, you can just do at home, and it's more body weight. So that's been really helpful. And then technically, the nice thing about tennis, even if you don't have a tennis court, you can always grab your racket at home. If you have, a little bit of space, you can still swing the racket and shadow and work on footwork. And so we've encouraged them to just kind of, at least hold the racket every day and try to work on some swinging, shadowing, and working on some footwork patterns too.
So far I'm hearing some advice and some challenges coming through. The challenges that your students aren't used to online learning. So they've got to get their head around how to navigate this system, because you're at at Brown University, there's still a high workload. So managing that, ensuring that the students are sticking with the schedule, and dealing with not having a swimming pool or not having weights and things to actually train the way you normally would. Any other major challenges coming through, Lucie, at this stage that you're seeing?
Well, I think for us, the biggest challenge is not having the ability to go out and actually play tennis. Yeah. So I would say, I think now all 50 states, United States, are under self-isolation. So most facilities, tennis facilities are closed, private clubs, high schools. So our student athletes do not have access to tennis courts. So I would say from the tennis playing perspective, that would be the biggest challenge for us. As we kind of mentioned before, also, on the online courses, that's definitely a challenge. And then I would say one of the biggest issues for us is also how are players handling the situation emotionally and mentally. That's just, there's a big sense of loss for all of them when it comes to their school year, being around friends, the loss of season. So we've spent a good amount of time just kind of trying to help them deal with that sense of loss, and just kind of going through those emotions of, okay, what are the steps that you need to take to basically you're going through this grieving process, and how do you handle it, and what are the steps, and what are the emotions that are okay to feel, and how do you move on from that place? Mm-hmm. So there are a lot of challenges. I would say mostly emotional, but then also, just in terms of not having access to certain things.
How about you, Felix? Do you want to speak any more about some of how you're managing the stressful time and any other specific barriers or challenges that you're dealing with your athletes?
I would almost echo everything Lucie said. This is we've never been through this. So everything we're doing is learning. At first it was like trying to figure out, maybe they need to talk to me every day. So texting them and trying to FaceTime them. And then it was like, okay, but we wouldn't even, this is something that and I guess being stuck at home as coaches, we all also have to deal with our struggles and challenging and changing of scenery. So I would probably say everything like Lucie's going through, every one of them is dealing with it a little bit different. Mm-hmm. Some of them, the ones that have siblings, are adjusting a little bit better just because there's other people around. We actually had one of our athletes had to go all the way back home to Greece, chose to go home to Greece and was allowed to. So talking to him, at first he's kind of a little bit more lost just because of the time difference and trying to get on the calls and everything that for classes. So I think every one of them is experiencing a little bit differently, but all challenges that we've never been through. So everything we're experiencing is new and unprecedented. And I think that's probably the most difficult thing is we don't have answers for them. We can't really give them the solutions. Like in a game situation, we run into a tough spot, call a timeout, say, all right, you go that way, you go this way, the ball will go there. And they're able to do that. And most of the time we're successful, but now it's like, it's like, just figure it out and trial and error and good days and bad days. And just know that we're here, and I think that's all we can do.
Well, I'm sure that's hard for coaches because you're supposed to have the solutions to help people get better. And now you're suddenly like just maybe I shouldn't say just a sounding board, but your probably role is even more important than what it ever has been in the past for these young people and what their futures look like going through this challenging time. Todd, how about the wrestlers? How are you helping the mental health of your wrestlers, and how are they coping with this?
Yeah, so I think we've taken this challenge head on. We've done a lot of Zoom meetings, a lot of Zoom calls with our team. I think that's been really great. We've had some fun with it where, had these guys, take a little quiz of getting to know everybody, and, is this guy, is he afraid of sharks, or is his cup half empty or half full, or is he a night so then we had each guy on the Zoom kind of, if we had Felix, we're like, all right, what is he, a night person or a morning person? And everyone have to, kind of write it down and show on the Zoom. So we've had some fun. We've gotten creative. We've actually, I think, gotten a little more connected this way because everyone's on there, and, we're seeing them, twice a week or more, and, sometimes more than we would during the regular season with practice running. And, so I think the challenges, we've taken it head on and, gotten creative with ways to keep our mental health and our physical up during this time.
I love the fact that you've all mentioned being creative through this, and you've all mentioned the communication and importance of it. And it's something that we've even found in my role and as our roles PTs. I mean, all of us, and whether we're coaching, healthcare teachers, is suddenly you're this one-on-one and you're face-to-face with someone, and it's very intense in real time. It's a little bit different to be running around a clinic or out on a field or in a pool where you're yelling or screaming or telling people to do something. You've suddenly now got to very actively communicate with people, and it can be really intense and very empowering. So
yeah, no, we've given them a lot of ownership too. I think, sometimes when we're doing all the talking, doing all the, running this and that, I mean, now's the time they can take some ownership in their situation, and with their workouts, with their training, with different things that they can do. So then they come out of this even stronger than they were before.
So that sort of piggybacks onto my next question, and I'll pass this one over to Felix, is do you see any examples or any opportunity that this pandemic will actually build strength and resilience and grit amongst our athletes and amongst our next generation?
Yes. I mean, it's obviously it's crazy how it probably seems like it's been 3-4 months and it's only been like 4 weeks. I think if anything is figuring out ways to be creative with what you have access to. I do, again, like even the challenges that they're facing with the academics end of it, of learning how to be online students, they're figuring it out and then still trying to find ways to ultimately, like I said, there's division, and this is a big part of, as an Ivy League student, everyone thinks that you're not a year-round athlete. Ivy League rules, summer training and all these other obstacles that we face as coaches when we're dealing with our athletes. But the truth of reality, our athletes are probably more prepared for these types of situations because they're used to doing stuff on their own when they're not with the team. They usually just do it in the summers. We give them, we don't check up on them. We're not allowed to make them do anything. Our athletes are doing it because it's important to them. It's part of their passion. It's part of who they are, being an athlete at an Ivy League school. So while our athletes are dealing with the challenges of it's April, right? And they're used to dealing with this in May and in June. They're still more equipped to get through this sooner than other athletes. I talked to a coach last week of a Pac-12 school in California, and he's like, I don't know what to do. My athletes, I need to watch them. I need to make sure that they're doing this. They're not letting us Zoom record our training, and we can't. And I'm like, well, this is what we do in the Ivy League, and sometimes you have to trust your athletes that you give them a workout, and then you walk away, and then knowing that they're going to get it done. And trust me, they're more capable of doing it than we might give them credit to. And that's one thing I've learned of coaching in this conference is this is who they are. So they're not going to say, oh, I have 8 months off from training. They're thinking, okay, once I figure out how to manage my academics, I need to get back to getting stronger, faster. I need to get back to getting better, faster, stronger.
I like your better, faster. Perfect. I love it, Felix. I love the fact that you bring up, you've got to trust your athletes, just like you got to trust your students or your employees. And now's the time to work on that trust and that empowerment side of things. Lucie, Todd, do you have any things to add to that as far as?
Yeah, I would like to add something. I think Felix is absolutely right. We definitely deal with a special kind of a student athlete. If you are willing to go to a really highly academic school and then on top of that, do play a sport at a very high level, it definitely requires a kind of a special kind of a person to do that. Someone like Felix was saying, who's willing to take ownership and, they don't have athletic scholarships. So the only reason they are doing sports is because they're very passionate about it. And they understand that they want that excellence both academically and in their chosen sport as well. So yes, I'm all for really trusting our athletes, knowing that they will do the right thing because they are passionate about what they're doing and about their sports. We talk a lot with our athletes about kind of 3 main relationships that we recognize. The first one, the most important one, is a relationship to yourself. And then the other 2, your relationship to the team and your relationship to your coach. And then in the future, once they're out of college and out of athletics, to your boss. So coach boss is kind of a slash. But, the most important one that we talk about is your relationship to self. And that's the one they can really draw on now. So, we talk about how do you find the most authentic self, right? And so in terms of tennis or any athletics or even academics, it's how do you get yourself out of your comfort zone? What do you do daily to make sure that you're always reaching for a little bit more? And so this is a great opportunity for them to really kind of test where they are with that relationship with self. Am I willing to challenge myself every day? Am I willing to be a little bit more uncomfortable than I was yesterday? And so when we talk about with our players about this time, it's all about like, how do you create the most authentic self? How can you get to a place where you're constantly reaching to get better? So,
well, Lucie, I think you should maybe do a TED talk on that and speak to not just athletes, but to every single person, because I think, every morning we should all get up and think like that is, how do I make myself a little uncomfortable and take care of myself and drive myself to be a little bit better or take care of myself. So it's awesome. Todd, any strategies or any words of wisdom that you have there when it comes to helping our athletes, their resilience, their strength, and where you think it is now, but where you think it will be in the future after all of this?
Yeah, great question. I think we've been talking about it a lot with the team as far as, things aren't going to be like it was before. Things aren't going to be the same. And, what does that next future hold? What does that next training phase look like? And, there's no wrong answer right now, and start thinking about different ways to get better, different ways to grow. And, I think that's the fun part. That's the way we're looking at it. I think over time, there's been so many things that have, changed the world and the thought process of what people are thinking about, and, the internet boom in Silicon Valley. And, so we've had a bunch of alums talking to our team, and, they're like thinking about, as you're walking college campus, what's that next future hold? What could you be studying? What could you be thinking about? Because things are going to change. Things are going to change for the better. And what does that look like? And so that's the same thing we're kind of preaching with them with the training part. Maybe there is more, individualized or, self-taught or, things that are going to help push them. I mean, I like what Lucie said. I mean, really that hits home with, what we're trying to tell them is, what do you want to get out of this time? How good do you want to get? And sometimes you got to, push yourself. And I like what Felix was saying as far as trust. That's a big part in this, trusting them. And I get excited when I see some of the videos and some of the things that they're doing to get better for themselves. And then they're also challenging other guys on the team with different things. So it's been neat, this whole process to, see what everyone's doing and how they're getting better.
So you spoke a little bit about how that some team dynamics. Any special or fun ideas you've seen about how the team themselves are communicating with each other, whether it's involving you guys or not, but how are they building resilience and strength as a team and building that?
So they've been doing, every day someone will throw out like a workout that they could do and challenge the next guy. And sometimes they'll put time limits on it and how fast they were able to complete it. I've had some fun with I have 2 daughters, and my 7-year-old came up with a workout. She wrote it down and had them do it, and had some fun with that. So just kind of challenging these guys with different things, and it gets the next guy's juices flowing with thinking of different ideas, and so that's been a lot of fun.
Well, that's certainly being authentic. Now your team is really getting to know you and getting to know your family as well. I don't know how well they knew them before, but I do like that part of getting to know everyone's animals and children's through this time, since we're usually having meetings in our home being disrupted by different kinds of family members. Felix and Lucie, have you seen some different things amongst your athletes as far as how they're communicating and collaborating through this time?
I know for our athletes, so we do a Zoom team meeting twice a week. That's what we've been doing for the last couple of weeks. And I know every time me and my assistant coach get off, they ask us to leave once time is up. I know they all communicate a lot, and they talk, and they talk amongst themselves what they've been doing. I know a lot of teams at Brown have been doing some cool social media things. I know, for example, TikTok is really popular right now. So I know a lot of teams have been doing different toilet paper challenge, and our girls came up with this really funny video that they have put together. So I think they're really, they're a family, and so not being able to be together physically, I think it's been really hard for them. And so it's great to see how they're all staying connected. And then when we were allowed to stay on Zoom with them, we would see how they get along, and how connected they're staying, and it's really great to see.
Do you really leave the call when they ask you to? Do you not just want to sneak in there and just spy?
Well, the Zoom meeting, we have to. They can tell or not.
They're smart enough IT wise to know that you're.
It's always interesting to me because we have a group chat when they're in school, well, even now. So there's a group chat that's with the coaches, and then they have their separate group chat. And once in a while, someone gets confused and they send something to the group chat with the coaches, and then they get so embarrassed because it's usually something that is not super appropriate for the coaches to know. But what we've been doing as well, we've been asking the players to do like show us your house. So we'll have a player walk around their room and show us, like you were saying, their parents and their animals and their childhood homes. So it's been fun, really getting to know them a little bit better.
It's awesome. Felix, how about the water polo players?
I would probably say we're not as active on this because we've kind of we were active the first the week of it's also. It's a little bit more challenging for me because with my 2 teams, one's in their seasons are different. So the men who will be in the fall, I'm focusing more on preparing them with some we'll watch. We're going to start watching some game film. I gave them basically 2 weeks to kind of get themselves situated. We're active on social media. They're involved in putting clips together for us, but we haven't really had many Zoom meetings just because of. I wanted to really just give them a couple of weeks to kind of get themselves situated, and also get the coaching staff situated because we're dealing with recruiting both teams and some of the challenges that are coming. We're having individual meetings with them, but more on checking in mental health wise and otherwise, and providing them with the resources. But we haven't done as much fun stuff as we probably will do after this week's over. But I'm glad I'm listening to this, because I'm taking all these notes down saying, oh, that's great. I can do this. We can do this. So, but yeah, we haven't done as much of the Zoom meetings. We're meeting like right now every once a week and just kind of just running through some stuff, creating playlists for each other for workouts, stuff like that. That my assistant coaches, who are a little bit younger than I am, I'm kind of letting them lead with that, giving them kind of almost delegating to them to kind of do that. But that's pretty much it. We haven't really done much, but like I said, some of the stuff that I'm hearing from Todd and Lucie are really good ideas for us to do.
But I think it's an interesting time because we don't really know what the right amount is. And it may depend on your team, what the whether your sex of your team members, females, males. I don't know if they're any different. The seniors who are about to graduate or the people who are just recruited. I mean, I think they're all at different phases, and we don't really know what the best and most what the most appropriate amount of communication is at the moment. So it's great to be able to share all those ideas, and then as coaches, I'm sure you can figure out how to ultimately get the best out of your teams. If you did have some words of wisdom for different coaches out there who may be listening, any certain words of wisdom that you've learned through this so far? And now we've obviously brought up creativity, trust, all these other ideas, but anything that we've missed?
I think that the one thing that I've done, and this has given me an opportunity to kind of like evolve. I think that as a coach, as much as we're taking care of our teams and making sure that they're heading in the right direction and staying as sane as they can stay. And I think as a coach, I'm sitting back and I'm probably done more professional development the last 2 weeks than I've done the last 2 years. And I think because you always have an excuse, oh, I don't have the time. But now I'm evolving as a coach, and it has been probably the coolest thing ever. And I've kind of been looking at different sports, taking ideas from different things. And then the other thing, and I'm sure like if you're fortunate enough to have a family, is like, wow, like seeing my kids every day, waking up with them in the morning and, and spending time with my wife and kids and just hanging out. Like it's crazy how like I'm enjoying this as far as evolving and really getting a chance to the parts that don't involve coaching, addressing those needs and allowing myself to kind of just enjoy what I probably take for granted. I would probably say that's it. Evolve as a coach, but as a person, just the stuff that you take for granted, appreciate it and embrace it and take the opportunities to just do things that you don't get a chance to do. I mean, I think that's mental. Like we talk about mental health for the athletes, but mental health for us. Also, I've been working out almost every single day.
I can tell.
I did not do that. I did not do that at all. Like I said, there was always a reason for I can't do it. Now it's like I have a bike, I have weights. I'm literally like just, and that's probably another thing that's like, it's just taking care of myself, like physically, mentally, and professionally. It's just probably been the best 3 weeks of that I've had in a while, personally. So, and not that I don't appreciate coaching and seeing my athletes every day, because I do miss them, and I do miss my colleagues, seeing them on campus. But this has been an opportunity for me to really and that's my words of wisdom, is evolve professionally and embrace what you might take for granted that you didn't realize was always there for you.
Love it, Felix. You're gonna be better, faster after all of this, and then you're gonna be better, faster coach as well. Lucie, how about yourself?
I completely agree with everything Felix said. He's absolutely right. I've done more professional development in the last 2 weeks than I've done in, like you said, 2+ years. So that's been really good. If I'm looking at my calendar, it's just full of all these webinars and Zoom meetings, and it's been great for sure. I would add one more thing to, if we're trying to give advice to other coaches, or kind of from my perspective, what I have really focused on. This is a great opportunity to show your athletes that you truly care about them as people, and not just as, result producing machines, right? So right now, I'm really trying to get to know my players even better, and really trying to establish kind of that bond of trust between us, where they really know that I care about them as people first and foremost, and as athletes, or the people who are winning and losing matches second. And so I would encourage all coaches to really focus on that, because as we all know, it really doesn't matter if you're the best coach in the world, if you don't have that relationship of mutual trust with your players. It really, any amount of information will not make a difference if they don't trust you, and they're not willing to try and do what you're asking them to do.
It's awesome. I love it. And Todd, how about yourself? Some words of wisdom for some coaches
Wow,
out there.
those were all great answers.
I know, it's pretty hard to follow after those two.
I think what Felix said with Evolve, I think that's, I love this time here, kind of thinking about ways to grow, ways to evolve, ways to learn. I try to use every day to do something different, and I think I'll probably continue this style of learning and growing and working, even when we can go in the office, because, I think I've gotten a lot more done doing this type of work from home, work remote. I like what Lucie said. I think sometimes, as a head coach, you miss those opportunities of developing those relationships a little deeper with your athletes, and now taking the time to get creative learning with them and getting to know them individually. I think that's gone a long way. And again, being with my family, I'm now the virtual online second grade teacher to my daughter, and that's been interesting and learning and growing, and so it has been fun. I think getting up and being around them, and kind of learning through them, and seeing how they're evolving. But I would just say, I guess my biggest thing is use this time. If you're bored, that's a problem. There's so many things that you can do. Think outside the box. Think outside what you're doing now and how you can do it better. I think get creative. I keep coming back to that because, again, there is so many things we can do now, and, we've kind of started setting up Zoom calls with the other head coaches, just learning. We have 38 sports at Brown, and every team, every staff has something different, just like we're all on this call. And it's like we can all learn from each other. So, think about ways to grow and learn during this time, and get outside your box and do something different.
I'll tell you what I want to do after this is I want to learn how to wrestle, and I want you to be my coach, because I've never wrestled except for with my children, and a 16-year-old son and 13-year-old daughter, and my son is like 6'4", so it doesn't go down very well. Felix, I have never ever even attempted playing water polo. I wouldn't even know what a stick looks like, so I want to try it. And tennis, Lucie, I love the game of tennis, but I need some major help with my game. So I'm really looking forward to getting out and trying these new sports once I can. I definitely love sport and athletics, and I usually stick to running and snowboarding and things like that. But I'm all for wrestling and tennis and water polo after this. So your words are awesome. They're very motivating, and I do hope that people listening, not just the athletes or the coaches, but any person who's listening to all the advice you give is really helpful for at this time especially. So some final pearls. Let's think about those students out there, those kids who want to someday go to Brown or some other school and play and be a college athlete, who right at the moment are in high school or middle school going, what does my future look like? You've given lots of wisdom already today, but what messages would you want to give those athletes about how they can stay motivated and continue to work out and show that grit through this trying time? Todd, do you want to start off with this one?
Yeah, it's a great question, because it is interesting times. Normally, juniors would be coming to visit campus, and looking at Brown and seeing if it was the right fit. And then they would come in the summer and we're in that same thing. So like we tell all the recruits, I know we're in a holding pattern. We're still very interested. I would say stay active, just, keep your mental health up, keep your physical, doing your workouts, doing all that stuff. And it's going to be, I would say it's probably going to be a longer recruiting process because, everyone's in that same boat where we're still evaluating, the recruited athletes. And I think that may go into the fall a little bit because I know some of them are, missing out on some opportunities, some competitions that normally would have been in there in the spring and the summer to kind of showcase themselves. But I would say just hold tight, continue to reach out to those coaches, those universities that they're interested in, continue to reach out to the coaching staff, videos, highlights, all that stuff, continue to keep updated, but hold tight. I think, everyone's in the same boat, but when we come out of this, be prepared for any opportunities that you have. Some competitions may open up in August or September and be ready for them because, academically stay strong because, that admissions process that, we're going through, they're going through as well. And just keep your head up. I think we'll all get through this together and they're not far out of the recruiting process than they might think.
Yeah. Lucie, how about you? Messages for the youngsters?
I would say just control the things you can control because there's so much in the world today that you don't have control over. So what are you going to do to better yourself? So if there's an area in your sport or physically, if there's an area of opportunity, something that really needed to improve that maybe you didn't have time before, may it be if you're inflexible, maybe working in your flexibility. If it's a weakness in your ankle, your knee, your back, what can you do to kind of feel productive, to feel like you can get better? So when you are able to go back out on the court or in the pool, you're able to feel like, okay, I've controlled the things I could control and I have become better.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. And Felix?
I don't want to, I think that what Todd and Lucie said are exactly like they hit the nail on the head. Control what you can control. And I think, community, I guess one thing is like, unfortunately, not doing well academically during these hard times is not an excuse, and we won't be able to overcome that, as an Ivy League school and admissions process. So, stay focused on your academics, make sure that you do the best you can with the online resources you have and be a better student for it. So, but I think Todd and Lucie, said everything exactly right. And I think, for us, we just have to just take our own advice, control what we can control, and make sure that we are, communicating with recruits as much as we can.
Well, Felix, Lucie, and Todd, you guys have been absolutely phenomenal. I've learned a lot from this, and not only that I want to play water polo, tennis, and wrestle, but also, the importance of our positive attitudes, having structure, being creative, being aware that we're all grieving. We can only control what we can control. We've got to take care of ourselves through this time. I love hearing how your teams are collaborating, communicating, all the different strategies. I think it's helpful for all of us and helps ultimately, hopefully we're ultimately building a community that can be stronger and better and nicer and happier once we get through all of this. So thank you so much. I really wish all of you the best of health and the best of health to your students and your athletes. And I hope they prosper through this and we get back to a new world that it'll be a new normal, and it will be better, and I won't say faster than ever before. It sounds like it was fast enough before, but it will be better than it ever was before. So thank you so much to all of you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to the Performance Physical Therapy Better Faster podcast.